We are live. Good afternoon, Facebook. We thank you so much for taking your time to hop on and join us to listen in at this great interview that we have planned for you today. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Lindsay Kiesler, President and CEO of the Chamber of Catawba County. I'm so humbled and privileged to serve in this role because I get to just do stuff like this, talk with business owners and leaders from across our community, help understand their challenges, but also their great legacies that they've continued for generations. And that's what this series is about, the Family Strong series. So we've done several iterations of this over the last several months, but this one we are featuring family businesses. So these businesses have more often than not stood the test of time. They've invested in technology, they've invested in their people. They've continued to innovate themselves and evolve over the years to service their customers and fill a need in their communities. And more often than not, they serve their communities very well. It's important. Community is important to them. And today, my guest is no different. Joanna Shear, she's the president and CEO of Steel Rubber Products. You're going to get to hear her and see her in just a minute. But first, I want to thank our sponsor. So Mike Kelly, he is the founder and owner of Hickory Real Estate Group, also a family business himself. He runs the business with his wife. Mike, I want to introduce you to the group. I know he wants to say a couple words just to kick us off today.
Well, thanks, Lindsay, for having me on today. I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to seeing what Joanna has to say. I'm always amazed when we have these interviews with local business people, and it's always surprising and impressive. It's like, I didn't know that company was here, or I didn't know we did that here. And so it's just been a really great series so far and a great way to interact. But just, thank you for letting us sponsor, and we look forward to all the future ones. But we are, like I said, Hickory Real Estate Group. If you are looking to buy or sell a house, you go to our website, hickoryrealestategroup.com, or check us out on Facebook. But thanks for letting us be on.
Thanks, Mike. And before you sign off, I want to give you a shameless plug to promote your podcast. So Mike has a really awesome podcast that he does quite regularly. So Mike, you want to tell him about it?
Yeah, sure. I try and do at least a couple a month, but we try and do it's called the Real Hickory Podcast. And it's on iTunes and Spotify. I mean, you can, download it everywhere. We have a Facebook page for the Real Hickory Podcast also, where we'll post them. It's been nice because we've actually been able to do them on Zoom to record them, because people haven't been able to come to my studio to record them anymore. And so it actually makes it easier to do a video for them. So we've got them on there, and it's everything we try and do is with a little bit of a tilt toward real estate and kind of what's going on in the area. So I appreciate the shout out for that. And it's been a little fun hobby project. I think I have tens of people that listen to the shows, and, hopefully we can grow our audience a little bit, but it's been a really fun side project. And, like I said, just I've been having fun with it, and I appreciate you being on. You've been on twice for me, so I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. It's definitely been a privilege. So thanks again, Mike, for your sponsorship. We appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
If you're just hopping on, I want to say welcome. Thank you for joining us live on Facebook. As I mentioned before, this is our Family Strong series. So you're in for a treat. I have the privilege today to interview President and CEO of Steel Rubber Products, Joanna Shear. But first, I want to encourage you to engage with us. So if you are watching, I want you to comment, because I have the ability to see the comments live. So feel free to throw in a comment if you like something you hear. If you have a question for Joanna, put the question in there. I would love to weave it into our conversation today. But if you're watching live, I want you to comment #live. So write #live. If you're watching the replay, which again, welcome, thanks for stopping in, go ahead and put #replay so that we know you stopped by and you listened to Joanna and things that she has to say. So #live if you're watching currently. Also, react to the post. So Facebook algorithms, you guys know all about this. I don't have to tell you, but Facebook likes it If you comment and react and engage with us during this live interview, they will make sure that more people get to see what Joanna or hear what Joanna has to say. So make sure you react, give us a wow face if you can hear us loud and clear, give us a hearts and some likes, and we would be so grateful for that. In addition, share the video. Share the video so that your friends can see and hear as well. And also you can start a watch party. That's always kind of fun. You click start a watch party and you can actually see which ones of your friends are watching it with you. So I hope that you're enjoying your lunch and that you're about to enjoy what the rest of this interview has in store for you. So I've mentioned her name a couple times now. Now you're going to get to see her face. So Joanna Shear, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lindsay, for having me.
Well, just if you have not had a chance to get to know Joanna, I want to give you a little bit of background from her bio. So Joanna Augusta Shear is the president and CEO of Still Rubber Products of Denver. Joanna is leading her family business and she's the third generation. Her grandfather started the business in 1958 and she took the helm in January of this year. I mean, what a year to take the helm of a already thriving business, but during a pandemic. I think we're going to get into that a little bit later. I'd love to hear more about that. Still Rubber Products, the manufacturer of rubber weather stripping for classic car, street rod, RV, and marine markets. So thank you, Joanna, for being a part of this today.
Thank you. I'm excited about it.
All right. So what we like to do with every Facebook Live interview is we want to do a rapid fire Q&A. So it gives you, our viewers, the opportunity to get to know Joanna in maybe a different light. You know her as president and CEO of Still Rubber Products, but maybe you don't know some other things about her. So you ready for this?
I'm ready.
We're going to jump in. All right. What is one word that you would use to describe what it's like working with family?
Rewarding, sometimes hair pulling.
I like it. What is the most important quality of leadership?
Vision.
What is one cause that's near and dear to your heart?
Multiple sclerosis.
What's one of the most random facts about you?
I can carry a tune.
Ah. All right. What skill do you think everyone should have?
Adaptability.
What is the best piece of advice you've received?
Learn to ask good questions. That's also a major part of leadership.
I agree. If you could have a 15-minute conversation with anyone, Joanna, who would it be?
Jack Welch.
What book did you read that has had the most impact on you professionally?
The Gods and Generals Civil War trilogy.
What is your personal mantra?
Live like someone left the gate open.
Oh, yes. If you gave a TED Talk, what would the subject be?
Living life to the fullest.
All right. So say a day had actually 25 hours. What would you do with the extra time?
I should be using it to exercise, for sure.
You get that exercise in. I know you do. When you aren't at work, where can we find you?
These days at home, but before COVID, I was very involved in the community and went to a lot of local festivals and events.
If you could jet set anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I'd love to go to Scotland and Ireland.
What's your favorite family tradition?
Getting together for Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday.
Mine too. What is your favorite go-to self-care tactic?
Hot baths and pedicures.
Way to go. Way to go. We've got to take care of ourselves on and off the clock, right? In order for us to achieve, be able to perform at the fullest, especially with all the demands that are thrown at us every day. So thank you for that. All right. I appreciate you, playing along with our rapid fire Q&A section. That was really, really great. All right. So if you're just tuning in, we are talking to Joanna Shear. She's the president and CEO of Still Rubber Products. And this series is it's called the Family Strong series. So we're talking about companies that have survived the test of time, that believe in generational leadership. And you're hearing from a third generation leader in this great company, this company that's 62 years old. So Joanna, for the viewers, give us some background as, what is Steel Rubber Products? What do you guys do? Give us some brief history. How did your grandfather start the company? All that, anything that you'd like to share.
Sure thing. So in 1958, my grandfather had a little sideline business where he made go-karts. Actually, the company wasn't actually in the classic car industry, but in the mid 70s, he was it maybe 60s actually. He had a 31 Cadillac, couldn't find the parts for it, decided to make them himself. He was a tool and die guy up in Detroit, and there was a rubber company a couple doors down, so he ended up making some of his parts for himself, and then his buddies asked to make parts for them, and then his car club, and then it grew from there as a little side business. In the mid 70s, actually, that's when they moved to North Carolina, to this area. And that side business became a main business. My dad joined the company a year later, taking over a lot of the business side of what we do. My grandfather was at the lead until about early 90s. And then my dad took over at that point and had run the company and really grew the company quite significantly during that time within the industry of the classic car, street rod, and then in the last few years into the RV and marine markets. And he just retired in December, and I took the helm in January 1st. So we're excited. We keep evolving and developing into new markets, and it's always something interesting going on.
Well, what a history. So starting out in your grandfather's, literally his garage, right? Working on go-karts. And then, he's pretty good at it, right? So other friends say, well, can you make stuff for me? And then, like you said, relocated to the community. And now it's decades later, it's a thriving business, and actually a leading business across the country in those various markets. So thinking back to when your dad started in the business, and then you were a young girl, I'm assuming, what was your earliest memory of Steel Rubber Products?
Well, I mean, I remember coming in and just, all my family was there. It just seemed normal that, this is also the place that my family is. And it was mostly family early on. And, they started me off young. I was already helping my grandmother file pretty young. And it was always my summer job. So it became less family. Now, there's still family involved and more employee, non-family employees in the last, several years. And it's been nice having that mix.
Joanna, how many employees do you guys have now?
I think we're right at 65, 66, something like that.
Incredible. So thinking about you filing papers with your grandmother, and of course, I'm sure knowing your granddad as just a granddad, but also seeing him as a leader, and then seeing your dad in the business as a leader, what were the most memorable attributes of their kind of leadership qualities, if you will, that you admire the most?
I think for my grandfather, the ingenuity of coming up with something new, creating this entity. For my father, his ability to take the business and really just drive it, grow it, give ourselves a name in the industry. We've got an incredible brand, and I don't know that we would without his impact.
So then, after seeing the company grow, tell us about the moment that compelled you. I mean, maybe you always thought to yourself when you were filing papers with your grandmother, maybe you always thought to yourself, well, I'm going to join the family's legacy one day, the family business one day, but maybe not. So tell us about that decision for you.
Funny enough, when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then I shadowed a lawyer and realized that's not fun. And so, I went to school at Chapel Hill, and I lived out there for a while and worked in different industries. I worked in the travel industry with American Airlines for a little while, and I worked for an association in the engineering field for a while, but I kept being drawn back into potentially working for the family business. And I joke that my dad and I had a 2-year interview, but that's not really a joke. To some degree we did. We really talked about it for a while before deciding to bring me on. I mean, there's risk for him, there's risk for me if things didn't work out. So we talked about it for a long time, and he really wanted to know, was this really something I wanted versus a job of last resort? And it's the best decision I've made, for sure. I'm very glad to have decided that this is what I want to do. I'm very glad that he decided that I was the right one to bring back. So.
So when you started at the company, you were in a different role than you are now. Why don't you
Yes.
tell a little bit about your background, how you grew and developed into your various roles?
I came from a customer service sales background. So even at American Airlines, I worked with the frequent flyer department, and in the association, I learned a lot about staff and customer service, and worked in sales and learned a lot about sales. So I came in that area here, working in marketing, working with our marketing manager, getting us involved in eBay at the time. Not only did I get hired at the same time, but also my husband got hired at the same time. So additional risk taking on people. And he's in our IT department, but making sure we were a good fit. So that's my background, is on the sales and marketing end.
So tell us about the process of succession planning. So clearly you believe in generational leadership. You grow your own, and they're not, most are non-family as well, to your point. In developing your people, what was the process like in deciding who would be the next president and CEO of Steel Rubber Products?
I think it takes time, and you need to determine, does the family who owns the business want it to succeed, or do they want to sell the business, which is a very common question when it gets to that point. I think they needed to make the decision, yes, we want it to continue. We want it to continue in family. Okay, now do we have someone internally? Is Joanna the right fit for that? If she is, does she even want it? And then does she have the skills, and where's the skill gap? One of the things we did was I went to grad school, got an MBA and a master's in change management. It was some years that we went through. I've done some personal coaching with coaches to make sure I'm the right fit, and make sure the family felt confident with me running the business. But, like any normal business, you're doing succession planning. You have a role that's a key role. Do I have someone internal that can be developed to that or not? The difference in a family business is, do we have someone within the family that can carry that on? You still need the skill set. You still need the abilities to lead no matter what, because the business has to be viable, or else then you're looking at, do I need to sell? Do I need to turn it into an ESOP where the employees own the business? So there's a lot of questions that come with that.
Other than succession planning, what issues do you feel a family business needs to address that's different from a traditional business?
Well, I think, you deal with day-to-day, sometimes disagreements with each other, and you still go home with each other. Right? Yeah. You still have to sit next to each other at Thanksgiving. You still have to have a family relationship. And there's some families that have been successful with that and some that have not. And it tears up the business and it tears up the family. And I think I'm very fortunate in my family that we're all very conscious of that ultimately, and we want the best for the business. And even between me and my husband, we love each other. And if we have a disagreement at work, we have to leave it at a work thing. In fact, often we'll put a moratorium on work talk at home and say, okay, if you got an issue, we got to talk about till 6. And then after that, no more work talk because we're at our home space,
That's great advice. Great advice. What types of policies have you guys put into place? We've mentioned before, you guys have over 60 employees. And so most of those are not family. The majority is not family. And you surround yourself with people with various strengths and skill sets for a reason, and intentionally and on purpose. But what type of policies have you guys specifically implemented to ensure that it's, a fair, equal opportunity type of a work environment?
Sure. One of the things we implemented was a hiring policy. So if we have an opening, we announce it to the staff, we announce it to the public, and we announce it to the family. And all I can guarantee the family is an interview. I can't guarantee them a position. I can't guarantee them a promotion. I can't guarantee them anything beyond that. They still have to bring the skills and abilities that the role requires, because it's my responsibility to make sure the business runs well, runs viable, is profitable, etc. So when we have an opportunity where there's a position and there's an opening, often I will sit in on the interview on any position where a family member is applying for it, to not only make that exceptionally clear, but also to say, hey, here's the good parts of working for your family business, the legacy and everything. Here's the bad parts. Every eye is on you. Every eye is making sure you're behaving properly. You don't have the luxury of only representing yourself. You represent also the rest of the family members that work here. And that's, sometimes that sounds like it's easier than it really is. And as well as not only hiring, but promotions. So if there's a role that's available that would be considered a promotion, they have to remember there are other employees here that are working very hard potentially also for that promotion, and it needs to be fair, and we're really putting the best person in place. We've also made it clear to our managers that they should manage that employee like any other employee. If there's a performance issue, don't be shy to address it.
That's great. That's great. So what do you feel are the greatest strengths of Steel Rubber Products?
I think we're just a great place to work. I mean, we have fun. We do things. We work in a fun industry. I mean, I love it when people ask me what I do, and I make parts for really cool cars. My customers are happy to call me, and I think that's it. I also think in a small business, you have a lot of empowerment to be part of where the company goes in the future. Mm-hmm. I mean, I worked for a large company before, and you feel like you're just a number, easily replaceable. But in a small business like our size, and whether it's, family or not, you feel like, hey, what I'm doing has an impact. It's that intangible benefits that may not be part of your pay package, but it gives you self-worth on the job that I think is huge.
You mentioned in the green room that you guys talk about fun. You guys are hosting regular bingo nights with your employees via Zoom. I think that's pretty unique.
Well, we have employees that work on site, and we have employees that work at their homes right now. And we're trying to figure out how to have a good company culture during all of this. Mm. And we thought, well, let's have some socials in the evening that are, you can go to if you want to. And so we've named them the COVID and Cocktails Hour. And so we meet, a couple of times a month, and we've just chatted. We've had bingo, and the bingo is generally done towards company type of things. It's not just B12, we'll have something that somebody in the company does, and that's the bingo square. And it's been fun, and it's nice to have that mix of people from different departments participate. And there's prizes, so we've enjoyed it.
That's certainly a best practice. I know we're all trying to figure out, how do you maintain a team environment even when we're all, remote? And what a best practice. Kudos to you guys for coming up with something so innovative. I do have a question from Facebook, and they asked, does the business reach only within the region or state, or do you work with customers across the country?
We work with customers across the world, I'm happy to say. It's interesting, this hobby for American cars nonetheless reaches quite far, and we have customers within the United States, but we have quite a few in Canada, and number 3 is Australia. A lot of the crossover vehicles, the Chevy is a Holden in Australia, in the Nordic countries, pretty much everywhere. The Middle East, we reach folks everywhere. We do business a lot on our website, eBay, Amazon. So we're able to reach a large audience because of being on international platforms.
And you guys have done e-commerce. You were probably one of the earliest adopters of e-commerce in terms of a business in the industry, to reach your customers near and far.
Yeah, we probably had a website early on. I can give credit to Walter Vaughn, our IT guy, was a future visionary on that. We probably early 90s had a website. it was pretty early on, and now and it keeps evolving. Now that we're selling in the RV and marine markets, we learned that there's a lot of crossover customers that have a boat, have a car, have an RV. And so we've had to merge websites so that you can be a customer of any of those items and use the same shopping cart. And that was a fairly new change that we've made.
I don't think that people understand the magnitude of this industry, right? The classic car, boat, RV, kind of the toys, if you will, industry. Maybe talk a little bit about that in general.
Well, it's huge. And for example, our association, which is SEMA, which is anything aftermarket for a vehicle, is the second largest trade show in Vegas. That's how large it is. The only thing larger is the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, which I think probably a lot of people have heard of. It is incredibly huge. Now, the restoration and street rod, portion is a smaller portion of that, but you talk about anything, racing, performance, restyling your vehicle, anything that once it drives off the lot, you do and change to your vehicle. And that's just the automotive side. I'm sure you see campers and RVs on the road all the time. Everyone knows that the camping is huge right now, not only with the retirees, but huge with the millennials. It's a nicer, affordable vacation that they can take their family on. And marine is a huge market too. Not only our Lake Norman, but ocean and the Great Lakes. And people enjoy their hobbies. And right now they're particularly going towards their hobbies as they can social distance and work on these types of things. So
that's right. All right, Joanna, your favorite toy, marine, RV, classic car, what would you pick?
Oh my goodness. Probably a classic car. I had a 1969 El Camino for a while there, which I then sold to my father because he had more time to work on it than me. It just looked pretty in my garage, really. I want to like RVs, and I remember I have to clean that RV myself, and then I'm like, oh yeah. So, but I love the camping aura, and the socializing that comes along with camping and the freedom it gives you my husband and I love to road trip. And so I think it's in our future at some point here for sure.
That's great. Well, speaking of future, actually speaking of past and future, but we talked about COVID, the pandemic. You took over the helm in January of this year, and then March, the economy shut down. And so change management being your master's degree has probably served you quite well, Joanna, over the last several months. So talk about that transition in general. And then from your vantage point, how does it look?
Well, it's been baptism by fire for sure. I knew this year would be different for me anyways. So I suppose I don't have, the past to look back on because I knew it was going to be different going in. I figure if I can survive this year, I'm good going forward.
Yes.
I work with this coaching group, which has been so much help with guys. And one of the guys said to that group, he's like, look, I've been managing my company for 30 years, and I've never had a more challenging this year. I can't imagine what it must be like for you. And I think the scary thing for us was, how is this going to change our business? Were we going to have problems getting material? Were we going to have problems being open? Was I going to be able to keep my staff employed so I could pay them so they wouldn't have to go on unemployment? Was I going to be able to keep our staff safe? I mean, there was a lot of scary questions early on, and my team was amazing, and we worked on it together. And that I think we really bonded in those moments because it was challenging for everybody not knowing the answers, but we worked hard to do what we felt was best for our employees in the company. And I think we're, now it's the new normal, and we're used to people working off site, and we're used to the mask, and we're, it's not necessarily fun, but we're used to it.
I think all of us have really learned the fact that even if you don't know all the answers, right, it's a very complex, ambiguous situation. you still have to move forward, right? And I think the other big piece I pulled from you just now is sometimes as leaders, and I'm speaking for myself as much as, I know you would agree, we feel that we have to have all the answers, like that everyone looks to us to have all the answers. And it's so far from the truth, because you said team. My team has been great. And I relate to that so much, with just surrounding yourself with people that can go in the trenches with you and grapple with these issues and come out on the other side stronger. And so kudos to you. We have another question from Facebook. They said, did your dad give you any advice when the leadership roles changed?
Oh yeah, he's given me a ton of advice, and he.
What dad doesn't give a ton of advice?
Oh yeah, well actually, one of the things we decided to do, which you're talking about succession. We're kept my dad on his consultant role for the year, and it'll diminish a little bit every year, but there's going to be things that hit his radar that wouldn't occur to me to perk up and ask a few questions. And so we actually meet one-to-one once a week, keeps him, aware of what's going on in the business, but gives me the freedom to still manage. I think it's worked out very well. He's given lots of great advice on things that said, when this trend happens, you need to be aware of this, or have you considered this? And I try to answer his questions with, yes, I have considered that. So but it allows that transition to be a little bit more smoother. He's got 40 years of experience that you can't pay for. I mean, you can't, it would be silly of me not to take advantage of that. And so we've done that, and I think it's worked very well.
So think of the position your dad's in now, right? He's recently retired. He's advising the next generation, and I'm sure he's proud as he can be that it's his daughter that has stepped into this role to take the family's legacy forward, something that your grandfather started. That's a pretty remarkable thing. He's put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. He grew the markets and grew revenue year over year, grew the team. That was the legacy. He's left a legacy. And so thinking of yourself in your dad's shoes right now. So you're at retirement, whether or not the next generation steps in or not. What is your vision for where the company would be at that point? And what's your legacy that you hope to leave on Still Rubber Products?
I think that my legacy would be that I was a good steward of the gift that was given to me. And then I can carry on the business for future generations and make it viable for employees and other family members to carry on. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I work with my brother also, and he's younger than me, and he's a smart guy. And, how do I transition him so that he's successful at running the business in the future? And that's really, I don't want to hand him problems. I want to hand him something successful that he can run with.
Joanna, it's been a true honor and a privilege to be with you today. I thank you for your leadership and for stepping up, and thank you for your community involvement as well. I mean, you're definitely no stranger to community leadership roles in addition to what you do every day. So I thank you for that, and thanks for letting me put you in the spotlight today a little bit. Thank you.
It was a good time. I enjoyed it, Lindsay.
Great. Well, viewers, I want to thank you as well. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your questions and your comments, and I appreciate all your reactions. And those of you that have shared the video, if you hopped in midstream, I encourage you to go back and listen to the replay and hear what Joanna had to say. It's pretty remarkable to hear from someone that's third generation that just took over right before the pandemic, but has vision to carry her family's business forward and build upon what her father and her grandfather have built. And the fact that the balance between family and between developing their whole team and how they treat their whole team as a family, not just those that are blood related. Pretty neat. So I encourage you to go back and listen to all the nuggets that Joanna shared with us. Also, I want to tell you about our next session. So our next spotlight is going to be on September the 8th at 12 p.m. So the lunch hour again. And the guest is going to be Corey Carpenter. She is, I believe, third generation as well of Carpenter Decorating Company in Hickory. Actually, I believe their address is Conover, but technically Hickory. They're in this whole Bermuda Triangle around Fairgrove Church Road, if you're familiar with the county. So I hope that you will tune in and listen to their business, extremely unique in creating holiday decorations for municipalities and other large-scale events all across the world. So again, September the 8th at the lunch hour, Facebook Live Q&A and the Family Strong series with guest Corey Carpenter with Carpenter Decorating Company. I want to thank our sponsor again, Mike Kelly and the whole team, Kathleen and the whole team at Hickory Real Estate Group for being our sponsor, for making this possible. To all of our shareholders and investors that are watching, I want to say thank you. Your chamber is certainly working with you and on your behalf every day. We're so grateful for your support and your partnership. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.